baby. It's time to ride the funk train. You were here with Funkmaster V and Silverback. I never asked you, do you go by Silverback because you're related to like some sort of simian, or do you just have a lot of gray back hair prematurely? What is that about?
Pretty much the gray back hair thing. We back in the day there was Xbox Live, and we wanted
still have that, John.
I know, but when we were doing it, it was new, and we came up with gamer tags, and I picked Silverback, and my buddy was Donkey Kong, and we had all these monkey names, so I just kept it. It stuck.
Well, that's probably not a compliment.
No.
Well, I'm pretty excited today because there's a character that we're going to bring on. Of course, everybody's going to read this and they know, so I don't know. It's not like a secret guest. We'll just bring him on here in a second. But, this game came out of nowhere. Rikki and Vikki came from an unusual source. And a lot of people regard it as the best, and most people probably would admit, even the hobby programmers would admit, this is the best made Atari 7800 game of all time, and probably the best Atari 7800 game ever. And it's not really a contest, right? As good as the homebrews are, and Rikki and Vikki's not even a game that I would normally like. That's not my kind of game, and I have to lay down the golden crown at its feet because it is an amazing feat in programming. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. It does so many things that the 7800 wasn't known for. I mean, you have the intro is like a cutscene basically that begins the game. You have 2-player gameplay, not only gameplay, but it switches the entire game up when you're in 2-player mode. And the color, it just looks fantastic. I mean, it there's nothing like it. Like you said,
it really looks like a low-end Genesis game.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what's amazing. It's even better than Nintendo games. So,
right.
All right, let's bring the cat on here. So, did you put up all your drug paraphernalia?
Yes.
Good boy. Here we go. We're going to class this place up. So let's keep it together here. Hey!
Hey! How you doing?
Pretty good.
So, do you go by Osman or TailChao? I know was your...
So Osman is fine. TailChao is the handle I've had since I was like 12 or 13 years old. So
oh, wow.
I'm going to carry that baggage, but I think you can use the actual name for this.
Cool.
Awesome.
Now, you don't do interviews very often, and I mentioned that, and you said people just don't ask. So yeah. I think that's interesting.
I mean, like a lot of it is that I did get asked by a couple people outside the Atari community, but I think if we're just looking at like Atari age, I got called in for the 2019 awards, and then that was it.
Oh.
So
wow.
Love you and leave you. That's unbelievable. Everybody's. What's funny is I've had a couple messages from people who want to give me a message, and they're like, "Don't let him go until he commits to making an Atari 7800 game." And I know that's something you're probably not going to do because Rikki and Vikki is as good as it was and unbelievable as it was.
Amazing.
Was probably a financial kick in the junk, right?
Kind of, yeah. Like the thing is that I did leave my job and do it full time.
Oh, wow.
It wouldn't to be clear, it wouldn't have shipped otherwise. So in order to make back that money, like it wouldn't have had to make a huge amount, but it needed to do well really fast. So like if it didn't sell reasonably, like if we had to move maybe 20,000 copies on Steam in the first 6 months.
Wow.
And there was no way that was going to happen. So like it probably by mid 2019, it was pretty clear like this isn't going anywhere.
Oh man.
Has that ruined your zest for all programming, or do you just think it was the 7800 decision that was the big mistake?
And it was a lot of things. So it hasn't ruined like my enthusiasm for making stuff. And I do want to be clear that nobody knew about Rikki and Vikki until like 2 weeks before it launched.
Yeah.
So like I tend to work on stuff and then you don't find out until it's done. And that is on purpose. So like I'm still working on stuff. I don't want to make any promises as to when like, oh, it's going to come out on this day, but like I'm still working on things. But in terms of like why it didn't catch on, when we launched, we had a really hard time finding people to promote it. And that made the people who did actually pick it up, like, I appreciate them so much more, because like Stuart K. Riley from Working Man Games picked it up really early. Slow Beef did the voice for the trailer. That's what I think most people found it. And then John Hancock did a video on it.
I've worked with him before.
Yeah, I know, he's really nice. And so like with those few people picked it up, and that's great. We had a couple others. But when we were trying to get like normal gaming news websites to pick it up or other YouTubers, just no one would even respond. Or some of the guys that did, they're like, we don't cover Atari stuff.
Oh, wow.
So
assholes.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's again, like they have to, it's, I wish they would promote it, but I understand that if they have to pick between like game A and B, and they know that B is going to get more eyes on it because it's not for Atari, then I don't blame them. Like that's their source of income.
Well, it's still available on Steam, correct?
Yeah. Like this is the thing you got to keep in mind. Like we didn't manufacture any more cartridges. Like we stopped selling them after 2020 when the first batch sold out. But the game's still been available. It's always been available, and it launched on Steam first. That was the whole idea.
Well, I hope you have a few copies so you can drop them on eBay, because they're selling for about $500 or $600 a pop.
My friends were pushing me so hard to do that. The pricing is really weird though, because like it at the end of what was it? Probably around 2021, I think it hit $1,000 on eBay.
Yep.
Resale.
Whoa.
I saw that. Yep.
And that was around the same time that like I was starting to sell off all my equipment. And I made a post like offering to sell my dev cartridges for $100 each, and I got no bites on it.
Whoa!
So, like, it really is like collectors. I have given up on trying to understand like how they associate value with things, but this is how it goes. The market's all over the place anyway.
You say we? Who else was involved in this?
A lot of people. So
really, okay. I thought it was kind of you're just mad science.
No. It wouldn't have shipped without people helping me. So, like, do you want me to go over like a quick history of how it happened? Or?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Rikki and Vikki, like, it started. The mechanics came out of a period in 2014 when I was really trying to design a lot of 2-player games where like the other player actually is important. You can't just drag them through the whole adventure. Like, did either of you have a Sega back in the day? Or
oh yeah, yep.
So did you ever play World of Illusion? Yeah, the Genesis.
Yeah, yep.
Was that the Disney game?
That was the one with Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. And you actually have to work together to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't have any friends, so I never got to play it. I guess.
You got wrestling buddies though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're stupid. They're always just hitting themselves over the head with bricks and things.
I'm sure you can get them to play games with you.
Yeah.
But no, so basically there are a lot of cool experiments like that in the 90s where like World of Illusion, you have to have the other person there to help you. Otherwise, and if you play like the 1-player campaign, the stages are totally different. You bring the second player in, you get a whole new adventure. And they're important to be there. Like before that, you had like Chip and Dale and Bubble Bobble in the arcade. But those kind of died out, and we weren't really getting a lot of co-op games at all. Like you'd have a lot of multiplayer games where you're doing a team effort, like TF2. Now we have Overwatch and all that, but nothing where like you really have an intimate experience with 2 players, like actually working together to accomplish a common goal. And so I was doing a bunch of designs, and Rikki and Vikki was one that came out of that. So I think I came up with the mechanics around the end of 2014, like so around December, and that's when I started messing around with seeing how they'll work. And from beginning of like 2015 up through 2015, through beginning and end of 2015, I started prototyping it on the 7800. And like at that, like, so we had the movement with the boxes, like picking up and throwing, how the stage progression would work, and the story all came out of that time. And then near the end of 2015, I was really unhappy with the job I was in at the time, and the game had progressed enough for us. Like,
what were you doing?
I was working at Nest Labs out in Palo Alto. So the company that makes the thermostats. This was after Google bought them out.
Sounds terrible. All right.
Like they had a lot of potential. Like I don't want to knock them too hard because there were a lot of good people there. But I think that they got injected with Google money, and then they didn't really have to make decisions anymore. So yeah. So like when I left, around like 10, 12 people left the same day. So
wow.
It wasn't a great situation. But
got a couple people in the chat saying this is the absolute best 7800 game, and another person said it's an incredible game. So you've got a lot of fans.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You didn't make you didn't get to buy a silver-plated Corvette out of this, but do you at least feel like when I say something, and I'm totally, there's no reason for me to lie, when I say this is the best 7800 game of all time, does that give you any sort of like, well, that's really cool to hear? Or does that?
No, I really appreciate it. Like the thing is that it didn't do well. That doesn't mean I didn't put effort into it and want it to do well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, you said that what, 3, 4, 5 years you put into this?
It's 4 years.
4 years.
So I can get back to the schedule quick. So basically, end of 2015 is when I left my job to do it full time. I moved back to the East Coast and did contract work on the side to raise funding for it for a prior employer.
Oh.
And so at that point, we're talking about like we're about a year in. So the game's on the 7800. We have the characters running around, and there's like a couple empty stages. So 2016 is all one player mode, like getting the content in for one player mode and also starting to develop the emulator to sell on PC. And then end of 2016, I ruptured my Achilles tendon.
Oh, God.
And that delayed the game by about a year because we go into 2017. That's when 2-player development starts, and I'm doing like all the physical therapy and recovering from the accident that I had. And then we go into end of 2017 is when we started doing hardware work. 2018 is the other half of the 2-player content, audio, and getting the game ready for distribution. So I had a lot of help from other people with all of this. Tito did the design for the cartridge PCBs and also manufactured all of them like in his house on a hot plate. So like those cartridges, like you see that board, like he made all of these by hand, even though it looks so precise that a machine can do it.
Oh, wow.
And then everyone knows that Rushjet 1 did the music. He did a fantastic job. He also helped a lot with testing. And if you've bumped into the irregular cavern in the game, that was actually originally his idea. So like he was really involved with it and gave a lot of good suggestions for like content we would add. So it was fun to work with.
Did you say it's Bobby Clark, right? Is that guy?
No.
Rushjet.
Oh, Rushjet. Yeah, and I saw on Steam you have the album for sale, or there's
not on Steam, on Rushjet's Bandcamp.
Oh, okay. Yep. And I swear, this sounds weird. I do a lot of work on the computer, and there's times where I think, I can't remember. I think it's the second world. I would just sit there.
Cavern.
One of them, I can't remember. I would just listen to it on a loop as I was sitting there doing stuff because I just loved how that sounded. And for a 7800 game to have sound that you want to hear, not just be like, Jesus God, when's this going to end? That's pretty remarkable too. But yeah, Rushjet did a great job on that.
He did, yeah. I felt bad because I was asking for so many retakes when we were working on it, but like the results were amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But also on the software side, I had my friend Andrew helping with a lot of the design of the game. So like getting the feel good, trying to make sure the players actually picked up on what they're supposed to learn. My friend Corey helped with a lot of the Windows programming and wrote the stage editor we used. And actually my friend who I'm borrowing the setup from, George, he did half of the testing on like all the weird stuff you can plug in on the PC. So like making sure NVIDIA Shield works and all that.
Oh, that's good stuff. So yeah, I again coming down to what we have here. If people don't know, this is still available on Steam, and it's a 2-player puzzle game. Now, me and John talked about this since you agreed to do the interview. I was like, we should probably do a video of me and you. Of course, he lives in Ohio and Toledo, and I live in Knoxville, which are really. If a creature could have 2 anuses, I think the United States, it would be Toledo and Knoxville, Tennessee. But if we, if we could get together and somehow and try to defeat the 2-player, now a lot of people, you've got a lot of controversy. I don't know if you got mad about this either, but there's a lot of people who hate, and you know what I'm going to ask you. There's a lot of people who are like, again, you're 50 years old, you're Generation X, you don't have a lot of people to play video games with, and they're like, why is there a bad ending when you beat it with the one player? That never bothered me. That always made me want to play and find other people.
I think it's funny as hell.
Yeah. Because it's just a video game, right? I mean,
it was meant to encourage people to do 2-player, right?
Right. That was the point. Well, Bubble Bobble, I think, was even ruder about it. Yeah. Misery's dialogue is nastier to the player than the ending of Bubble Bobble, but like that's in his character. I couldn't write it any other way.
Right.
But, no, the whole point was like you know, he's giving you intentionally vague directions to screw you over later on, and that's exactly what he followed through with.
Yeah.
Oh, let me hit on that too. This is something else. I didn't have this. Is John has all the questions, but like I said, I'm an asshole, and I just go. But like the other thing that I liked about this game that you really have to like is the 7800 had a lot of, well, not a lot of good games, but they had good games. But the good games they had, the bad guys were called Mr. X, Dr. Evil, Evil Magician. They're terrible names. So Rikki and Vikki came out of nowhere where Misery Dragon should be a pro wrestler name. I mean, it's a
I agree. Absolutely.
It's a great name. And then you have Rikki and Vikki who you care about. So I think you already answered this in a way. Castle of Illusion was a influence on Rikki and Vikki, I guess. So
well, not just that, is that like I grew up in the 90s, and you think about a lot of the cartoons that were out there, like it's more typical of that style of writing.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And cutscenes are great. I think we haven't had anything like that in the 7800.
Oh, the intro is amazing. Yeah.
Muddy Funster's new game EXO that just came out, there are characters who have backstories and personalities, and Muddy Funster's starting to do that. But still, not to the cinematic effect of Rikki and Vikki, where it looks like a Saturday morning cartoon. So I wanted to, it's not really a question. I just want to say I appreciated that. Because, and if you ever read my review on Atari 7800 Forever,
I did. Well, you sent it to me. So.
Oh, okay. Well, great. Yeah, I was wanting a Christmas present, but I guess you didn't get that.
Oh, it's great. Thank you for that.
But I even said, this game feels strange on a 7800 because this feels so mainstream. It felt like Disney made it or Nintendo made it or something like that, and to have a game that kind of felt like it was a shiny new thing for us. I gotta say thank you for that. It really, and I think it was a beacon to other programmers going, okay, now the bar is up here. Yeah, and there's a ton of good games that hobby programmers have done, but now it's like everybody can shoot for this new line now. And I think the quality of homebrews since Rikki and Vikki came out has rocketed upward too. I don't know if you stay in with the scene or check in on it or whatnot, but
I check in every once in a while, and like people are doing some really cool stuff.
Yeah, they really are. They really are.
Yeah. I mean, you really set the bar for everybody. And after Rikki and Vikki, like Vinny said, I've noticed a lot of great games coming out, and it seems like it all started with Rikki and Vikki. So we all, on behalf of the whole community, thank you.
Right. You dipped your toe in. You took a break from snapping your Achilles heel playing basketball out in California with
oh no, it's even dumber than that. I was racing towards the water at a beach with my niece, and my foot went in a divot and went boop.
Oh my god. Ow.
And then the worst thing about that is when you're in front of a child that you're playing with, and they'll have that memory the rest of their life, like they're over there like, she's But anyway, hopefully she snapped out of it. All right, John, do you have any questions for our boy? He's got to go here in about 20 or 30 minutes.
Right. We missed like half of what we were supposed to talk about.
Oh, that's fine. But everything we've done so far is fantastic. But after working on Rikki and Vikki, have you has your opinion about the 7800 changed at all? Have you gained any sort of new appreciation for the console, or do you like it less?
So the thing is that like I don't hate the 7800. I think in terms of like programming for it and working with it, it's actually pretty fun. I enjoyed that aspect. What I wasn't too fond of, and what I was alluding to like when I was talking to Stu a couple of years back, is my experience like running into the 7800 is that I had read about it for years on the internet, and it's like it has these amazing arcade ports. This coolest console ever made. And I used to like really aggressively play Galaga at the arcades at the time. We're talking probably like 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
And my friend got a 7800 at a yard sale and brought it home. And he's like, I got one. Now we can finally try it. And I used to practice at home with the NES Galaga.
Yeah.
And like I always thought that port was pretty good. And I heard like, oh, the 7100 was even better. It's going to be amazing. So I go over and I try it. And I'm like, what is this shit?
Yeah.
Like the audio's all off. The physics are all off.
Galaga was a bad game to.
Yeah. And people will love Galaga for 7800. And I'm like, dude, if you go to our website, it's like, what? It's like it goes to hell. It's not. It's like people who never played Galaga played that version of Galaga. And there are great arcade ports on the 7800.
Oh, yeah.
Galaga ain't the one, and neither is Donkey Kong, which people praise all the time.
Donkey Kong Jr., like when I was writing my emulator, I thought the sound was broken because it was so bad. And it's like, no, that's actually just how it sounds.
It's bad. Yeah.
But no, like and then later on when I found the programming manual for it, I'm flipping through and I'm like, looking at the library, and this doesn't line up. Like this should be better than what we got.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And people are exploiting it now where like there is a Donkey Kong XM, which is near arcade perfect, but the sound is terrific on that. So
well, after working on Rikki and Vikki, one thing I want to know, in your opinion, is do you think Rikki and Vikki is the top tier of what can be done on the 7800? Do you think in terms of sound, color, can anything better be produced on the 7800, or do you think
you can do way more? The thing to keep in mind with Rikki and Vikki, and like I have to harp on, like we had limited time, limited budget. So like this is what I could afford to make. We didn't have a Kickstarter, we didn't have an outside funding at all. So we had to get the game out on a certain day. And we could only spend so much on it. So I had to draw everything for the game. I had to rig all of the animation. And we quickly ran out of space in ROM because the character graphics take up so many resources in it. So like just the graphics for Rikki and Vikki are 64K, and like that's as big as some 7800 games.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you could definitely do more with more resources. And those two are like, you have to do A to do B. So like if someone came along and they wanted to invest a lot of money to make a really cool 7800 game, like, yeah, you could definitely do better than what we did. But the problem is someone has to do that.
Right.
And that's a real hurdle. And you could do way better. Like if we went back to it and had like infinite resources, then yeah, we could do a better game. But I don't think you would get as big of a leap over what you saw in like the existing library to what we did. So it would look better, but it would feel more incremental.
So what do you think? You hit 80%, 85%, something like that?
I wouldn't put a percentage about it because like the thing is that someone might come along and stylize graphics in a cool way that uses less resources than we did. Like I never thought it was possible to make the 160 pixel mode look good. Like I think it's disgusting. It looks like Duplo blocks. But then Caro Blaster came out in 2014, and that's for PC only. But the color stylization, the way the graphics look, like you could do that, a facsimile of it on the 7800. So like someone could come up with something similar to that, and it's like they just didn't use the hardware in that way before, and it looks really cool. And hey, it actually uses it's feasible.
Awesome.
So it's you might always find some cool way to do something, and it ends up working.
Right.
It's not just like you shove more chips in the cartridge until you eventually get away with it.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I one thing I want to know is, will we ever see Rikki and Vikki again? Will there ever be a sequel on any console, or is it pretty much done and told? And
so like when I was working on it, I had plans for a sequel, and it was going to be a completely different type of game. It wasn't going to be a puzzle game.
Oh, wow.
So when originally the game started out as like an action arcade game, it was more so around like one character riding on the other's shoulders than using the boxes to kick each other around. And that ended up like it was the choreography required between both players would have been way too high. So that was chucked really early. And I always wanted to go back to that later, but because the game like did so poorly and what I wanted to do with that would have been so expensive, like I don't want to make any promises. I wouldn't mind going back to it, but let's see what happens.
Right. Do you have a soft spot in your heart for Rikki and Vikki? Like, is that okay? I didn't know if you've just got.
Oh, it's like I mean, it's something I wanted to make, and I made it. So like, I put a lot of thought into how the characters all interact with each other, and all of that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not deep, but like everything was arranged very deliberately.
Well,
yeah, you can obviously tell when you make when you play the game. It comes off like I said, it comes off like a Saturday morning cartoon. Like there was a company behind it. And if it really came from just your head, because people have tried to do humor in homebrew games, and it really humor is hard. Being cute and likable is difficult to accomplish. Because you can humor is the hard as a wrestler and as a guy that makes comedy movies. Humor is difficult because it's got to hit just right.
And it'll hit differently for different people too.
That's
hard
right.
to like get a general.
Yeah, so I think you did. I think you did a great job. But
oh yeah.
Did you think now when I did the review years ago, I went online looking for images. Did you ever think there would be hentai Rikki and Vikki sex visuals? I mean, did you ever think that was going to happen with the 7800 game that you made?
Sure, it's the internet.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because
I
was like
anything. Yeah.
First one I clicked on, I was like, what in the hell? I don't know, that my conservative Christian background, I was like, oh, I clutched my pearls.
We can't keep nothing pure.
No. Hey, internet ruined everything. It's all over now.
Right. Yeah. Now, what was the inspiration for Rikki and Vikki? Was it the Saturday morning cartoons, or
like the characters?
Yeah, the characters themselves. Yeah.
Oh, so they actually they were left over from a bunch of projects I never finished.
Wow.
I wanted to originally do a thing where like you'd play as Rikki in one game and you'd have one quest, and then you'd do Vikki in another game. The mechanics would be totally different. And then eventually they'd come together and you'd have like a 2-player game. And then, so they were left over from that. And when I decided to do like the 2-player games, I dug them out of storage, and then I'm like, okay, they can be in it. And I was trying to figure out like what problem can they have to solve? Because I thought of it like the box mechanics actually came first, like how they're going to move around and everything. And then I attached the characters to those. Like everything was driven by how they move around the stage rather than like, oh, I came up with these cool characters and now what do they do? So it's more about like how you play came first rather than who everyone is. But anyway, so once Rikki and Vikki moved in, what problem can they solve? Like, oh, maybe their kids get stolen. Like the gaming population is aging and they have kids now. So I think they would kind of relate to that if they played it. And it's kind of interesting to have like parents as a protagonist rather than just like another annoying teenager.
Absolutely.
But then, okay, who's going to take their kids away? And I'm digging through like the old character designs I have, and I found Misery, and Misery was actually a throwaway character from another game. He was supposed to be for an RPG, and like so he'd pop up and he would read bad poetry to your party, and like all the different characters would react to it. Like one would cry, one would like say like, what is this garbage?
So it's like he was like a reverse bard.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And so I'm like, well, maybe instead of just reading bad poetry, he can just inconvenience you, because when you play a game, it's complete unless the game's broken, it's rigged. So like you're basically paying when you buy a video game to be inconvenienced in a way you can eventually overcome it and then feel good about it. So he's effectively, he can't do anything. He's not going to actually harm your kids, but he can just really annoy you and hope he annoys you so much that you'll give up. And like a lot of like once I got to that point, it's like everything really started to solidify. And so it was like all the dialogue for Misery kind of was situated around him being the like funny jerk. So it's really, really hilarious if he's like bothering someone else. It'd be great to watch. But if he's actually like harassing you, you'd feel terrible. It's the worst thing ever. And then I wanted someone to balance that out, and then Dut came in. So Dut is just like whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's in originally he came in to just have the live sales. So like you'd go to the end of the stage and he'd sell you credits. And it's actually like when that went in the game, that was the point where I was like, okay, yeah, this is actually worth something. Like this is interesting.
Absolutely.
So when Dut was supposed to just be a contrast for Misery, so it didn't get as far as I wanted it to. Like I wanted more content around it, and we didn't have time to put it in, but if you think about how the game kind of changes its dialogue based upon how you play, the more you play for score, the more you're engaging with misery, and the more difficult the game gets. And the only thing you're getting out of that is a bigger number. Like, there's no point. It doesn't give you a better ending. It only gives you content that like is more inconveniencing for you. And meanwhile, if you talk to Dut, he's like, yeah, just give me your score. It's all cool, man. I'll make the game easier. And then eventually, if you screw up enough, like, he'll just let you continue as much as you want, but you have no score.
And that's extremely unique too. The first time that happened, I have never seen something like that in a game before, where you can try as much as you want. I'll just take your score away and you'll never have one again.
Well, the thing is that like the way we've made a lot of progress in terms of having difficulty become more accessible. And I shouldn't be the one to talk about this because of how difficult Rikki and Vikki is. But no, the thing that always bothers me is that when you trade off, like, oh, okay, I'm going to play at a lower difficulty. That's fine. I think you should give the same story and everything to the player. Like, maybe you hint like, oh, if you do this, you'll get some different dialogue. But we've gone past the point where you really harass the player for not playing for score anymore. But I feel like there should still be some trade-off. And so when it got to the point where it was going to implement extra lives in the game, I'm like, wait, there's no point to this. So why don't we sell lives instead? Because that's more of it's more of an allegory for how commerce works in real life. You have to give up something. And it only matters to you if you actually care about it. So for the players that actually care about score, you're attacking their pride. For people who just want to get to the ending of the story, it doesn't matter to them. So,
yeah, well, I mean, I just wanted to beat the game, and I swear,
and that's fine. Give that all your score.
John is very good at video games, and I do have a couple world records, but they're for games people don't like to play, and that's kind of my secret. But there was one boss that I couldn't freaking beat. It took me. I had to. The game was on for like 4 hours. I can't remember. It was one that was like moving, like the screen would move left and right, and you'd have to go over to the other side. I think it was a spider, but I would have to go around to each board. And good grief, I was like, "There's no way I could ever do this and get a complete score."
Yeah,
there's Rikki and Vikki.
The thing is, I was really astounded how fast some of the speedrunners did 1cc's and whatever through it. I thought it would take a couple weeks, and we got people going through it really quick. But I do think. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
One of our early bug reports was actually from a guy's handle was Mountebank, who played through 2-player mode using one controller and key bindings to control both players with the same controller. It was awesome. But no, anyway, so like
crazy.
The difficulty was one thing that I wanted to go fix. Like the sand cavern has so many issues with it, but like it was at the point where we could scrap this whole stage and delay the game for like 6 months, or I can ship it now. And I couldn't really do the former.
Oh, wow.
What do you mean the issues with the sand cavern?
So the sand cavern's the second stage where the lights go on and off.
Yeah.
And what we noticed when people were playing through it is that they either don't get it all, like they cannot remember the layout of the stage when the lights go out, or they understand all of it immediately. There's no in between. And usually you want to land like somewhere where eventually everyone can pick it up and get through it. But there's certain things where, like, depending upon, whatever your brain's doing inside, like you can figure out some puzzle immediately and other people can't, or like maybe you just can't figure something out, and you want to avoid those things. And both that stage and its single player boss were some of those, because the cat, like I was watching a lot of streamers play it. Some people would be on that cat for like 4 hours. Yeah. And then some people would get to it and it'd be like 1 or 2 deaths and they get through it. And like the cat has a pattern when he moves, but if you don't pick up on it, then you're screwed.
That's what I thought Vinny was talking about, because that cat, I'm one that spent like 2 hours on that cat.
Yeah, I might have been. I went to public high school, so you got to forgive me.
I did too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but we had to deal with that over here on the side. That delayed a lot of things on the mothership over here. Oh yeah, I had something I was going to ask him. It just slipped my mind. So go ahead.
I guess one of my last questions here that I'll ask is, if you could go back and change anything about Rikki and Vikki, is there anything you would touch up, anything you would alter, or is it Perfect.
So like right now, I do just want to leave it alone. I don't want to look at it. But like when we launched, I do remember there was so much artwork I wanted to retake.
It looks so good though.
Yeah.
When you're looking at it every day, it's different.
Yeah.
So like Rikki and Vikki's running animations, like Rikki's is supposed to be kind of a nod to how you'd key it in a lot of anime, where like he lifts his feet off the ground on the second key, like on the extreme of that pose. And then Vikki is how like you would traditionally key it in American animation, where the heel hits the ground. And like hers never looked right, and I wish I could have retaken it. It's one of those things you see it all the time, so it drove me nuts.
Wow. I think you're the only one that noticed.
Yeah, and like a bunch of the panels in the intro, like I retook those 50 times, and there was just no more time to do it.
Looks amazing.
I dated a girl with a club foot, so she just looked like she just reminded me of her.
There you go, that works then.
Yeah, so I do have, this is an odd question for you. So I've seen if people, let's see how to phrase this question here. So if people, there was an issue with phantom ghost inputs on the second controller.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
With that being said, I watched your response to the people going, because I think it was somebody would start to move, or there would be an input that wouldn't work.
No. So they would they wouldn't be able to jump anymore, or they would just keep picking up boxes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that illuminated an issue with the 7800. Now, one of my favorite games. Say what? Sort of. Yeah, we'll get to it later. But one of my favorite games is Basket Brawl for the 7800, and I played. I've got 3 of those versions. I've got one on a multi-cart and 2. And what happened this year, out of nowhere, you would play a game and it would go black, no more. Now I've got the Ed Ladden double controller for Robotron here, and so that has 2 gimmicks. Yeah, that goes into 2 gimmicks that go into the 7800, so you plug them into both ports. Now I can play Basket Brawl and the game doesn't stop. So I'm thinking that phantom gimmick on the second controller port had something to do with basketball freaking out.
Yeah, so like that, I think Rikki and Vikki had the lead for finding the most issues with people's second player controller port. It's just no one used it before.
Right.
But no, so the phantom button press thing, that is something I thought might be an issue before we shipped. And I looked at what the commercial games were doing, because like if you had a game where like you could press a button on the second controller to have a second player join, then it would probably be fine. Because the ghost button press is essentially like the voltage level on one of the paddle lines goes up when nothing's attached. And like that. But,
Jesus God.
So that's the ghost.
Yeah.
But basically, so I looked at some commercial games to see if like they were allowing the player to join that way. And they were, like, was it Rampage and Xenophobe both allow you to do that? And I'm like, okay, if the official like Activision Atari games did it, probably won't be an issue. And I checked through like the disassembly of the code, making sure they're not doing anything weird. So I'm like, okay, I don't have to do anything. And then it ships, and then people start complaining, and I'm like, uh-oh. So essentially, like it's something that normally you would see in like the developer manual as a warning, but I guess they just weren't thinking about it. When you have a controller attached to the 7800, it has a couple of resistors in there that tell it in 2-button mode that nothing's being pressed right now. When you have no controller attached, those resistors aren't there, and so the paddle lines can float. And that, like, so essentially, if there's no controller plugged in, it can think there's a button press, even though nothing's happening.
Wow. So that's so wild. I mean, I've always wanted to make a game. I'm not smart enough, you know. I get confused. I know, man. Somebody told me once to go in a round room and pee in the corner, and it took me 6 hours before I could process that. So I'm not capable of it. But it's just there's so much stuff you guys gotta
so much
consider.
Math too,
and so math.
Yeah,
math should be in the axis of evil. And so you know, when reviewers sit there and go, well, this ain't as pretty as another game I played, you know, I mean, it's kind of insulting, but at least you hit a home run out of the park.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I know you want to go biking and stuff. John, you got anything else?
We can run a couple minutes over if you want.
Again, Atari.io, Justin at Atari.io wanted to say thank you for giving us 7800 enthusiasts an incredible game and for taking the time to do the interview with Vinny and me. I'm sure he meant to include me.
No, he doesn't give a shit.
I'm glad y'all enjoyed it.
No, we're all excited to have you here. And I mean, again, in the 7800 circles, your game is the game, and by extension, you're the man. So we're glad to have you here. Now, with there's a new peripheral coming out, 7800 GD game drive.
Oh yeah, James's cartridge.
Yeah, and at Stone Age Gamer, they're including a copy of. And I'm sure you're aware of this, right?
Yeah,
I hope you are.
Well, someone had to arrange that deal,
right? Yeah. So that's another way to support your game, and at least, you know, instead of going on eBay and spending $1,000 on a cart.
And also on that note, like, if any of you are strapped for cash and you want to sell that thing, like, seriously, no hard feelings. Take the money before the market collapses. Take the money before the collectors wise up and decide to do other things. But basically, right now, if you want to buy the game, the options are you can get it on Steam. That'll always be there until Steam collapses. Hopefully, it won't. Mm-hmm. And then we also have a Humble widget download, which if you don't want to deal with Steam, you can use that. It's right below the Steam link on the game's purchase website on Penguinet.
Oh, wow.
So that gives you a standalone Windows one. If you don't want to deal with like Steam's environment or whatever. Then the 7800 GD, when you buy that from Stone Age Gamer, they just give you a download link and that includes the game. But basically any of those, if you want to play the game and support us, like those are the best options.
Absolutely.
Are you still doing okay? Is Steam? I know you. Is Steam helping offset some of the costs? Have over all this time? Have you gotten some of your money back or a substantial amount?
So here's the thing: is that we have to clarify what money back means. Now, if I'm talking about like the amount of cash I invested into it, it did make back its money. Like just
good.
Like the amount I invested in it and what was returned, like that added up.
Good.
But the amount I would have needed to justify like doing the game versus being, you know, at a normal job for 3 years,
right?
Not so much. And that's the big thing is like the amount of revenue you have to have from selling game A to get to game B is really, really astoundingly high.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Think about like if you're going to have a team of 5 and you're going to employ maybe like 2 of them full time.
Yeah.
Like what's your salary per year? Now double that. And you have to add in healthcare, all that other stuff. Like companies burn through money insanely fast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I also want to say for anybody, I don't know if you get any money off this. You should probably sue these people, but because I got mine already. I got this Rikki and Vikki diorama.
Oh, no, I saw that. That's awesome, dude.
I love. Oh, you got one too?
Yeah. No, I actually the person on Etsy that does this, I kind of maybe got her to infringe on your property because I asked her. I said, "Can you do a Rikki and Vikki one?" And
were you the one that did it? Because I saw it was already you because there's not a lot of great 7800 memorabilia. I actually had a friend of mine knit Bernie from one of Money Foster's games. It's not even released yet because I was wanting to kind of doll up the place or whatever. So this diorama is awesome. You just got to dust it every 6 months and you're good to go.
Well, luckily it's in a little container, but no, like stuff like that's really cool. I don't care if people make that.
Oh,
if you get bootleg cartridges, then I'll be upset. But
right. Yeah.
Well, only I can make the bootlegs.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, man, it was great to have you. Watch your Achilles.
Thanks for inviting me.
Watch your Achilles heel when you're out there doing wheelies in the desert and stuff. And
no, that's all healed. Like that was a long time ago. Sorry, forgot about that. Now we got any issues.
Yeah, I think we did we go through everything, John, that you wanted to ask him?
Oh yeah, he covered everything and more.
Yeah,
I mean,
let me check the notes I posted around here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I got it.
But you came off great, and you sound like a hero of the cause here. You sound like a hero of the funk.
Yeah.
But man, if you ever decide you want to just maybe not do something so intensive. This is the question. I knew there was something in it. That's why I was stammering. So now. This, and we'll let you go after this, but after you know, this game came out, COVID hit, the world changed, everything got screwy. And now, for some reason, it looks like Atari has come out of nowhere with a bunch of
that is
gusto.
like the post-pandemic event I did not see coming.
Yeah, I mean, they released a brand new system last week.
Right.
No announcement. The next day, they announced a clothing line.
Wait, what? That one I didn't hear about.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that.
It's called Camp. It's called Atari Camp. And you could get like postcards and tank tops, like it's a summer camp themed thing.
Do they have like the neon tubes like their arcade cabinets did?
Oh yeah.
See, cool. No, because they don't give a shit. They're just out there for cash grabs. But they do have like tank tops. And so you'll be videos of me and John out shoveling dirt with these tight tank tops on soon and booty shorts with Atari.
Are they giving you a kickback for that, man?
No, they're not. They should. I do.
Yeah, they should.
I think they should talk to Osmond and get Rikki and Vikki on that stuff.
Well, that's what I was talking about. So there is a rumor that Atari, the VCS, and all this stuff, and there may be room for Atari or Rikki and Vikki to be included on the VCS. Would you be open to that? And would you be open to doing any smaller games that wouldn't, take 4 years of your life or some sort of Atari platform?
So what I wanted to do, like when I actually left my job to start working on Rikki and Vikki, is I wanted to be M2 for for non-Sega consoles. You guys know who M2 is? Yeah. Who did Fantasy
the arcade
M2
they did.
Yeah, Fantasy Zone 2 DX, and then a lot of the emulation collections for Sega.
Yep.
I feel like that's the gold standard for making new games for old hardware. Like you put the effort in, you develop a nice emulator which is used in a collection, and then you take what you learned from that and you develop a game and package it alongside it. So it's like if you buy that collection, like you're getting all of the cool nostalgia, but you're also getting a new thing with it. And what I wanted to do in terms of that was like pick a console and look at the aesthetic you can get out of it and use that in a cool way. So you're not just doing, it's like, I'm making a cool game for the Atari. It's like, no, you're making a cool game that happens to use the Atari's resources in an interesting way. So like, that's what I wanted to do going into it. So like, if we could arrange a deal where like I could get everyone back together and we do a game every 2 years and like work on emulator stuff for Atari, I'd be open to that, but they got to pay for that. Like, I can't justify dumping any more money into it.
And they should pay for that. I mean, instead of a clothing line, they should pay you.
Well, again, like the cost for these things add up really fast. So I don't want to blame anyone for like, well, we can't do this because like, they're making decisions in terms of running a business.
Right.
And they might not always make sense when you're looking at it from a fan perspective. It's like, I looked at this console that came out and it's like, they're going to have all these compatibility issues. Why didn't they use an FPGA? There's so many things that could have been better. Like the advertising is really misleading. No cartridge left behind. But I think for most of the demographic, like that's fine. They want to buy this thing. They'll have a couple 40-year-old cartridges in the closet. They'll play it a few times and put it away and they'll be happy.
And the price are you talking about the 2600 plus? Is what?
Yeah.
So you do think there's going to be issues with compatibility and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, Rikki and Vikki always had the problem that it uses custom hardware. So if you want that to be supported on an emulation platform, whichever emulator is on that has to support it. And so we wrote our own just to get it on PC, and that ended up having like okay compatibility. So it ran like the rest of the library okay, but it had like whatever emulator they're doing, we could port ours and improve it. You could use another one and add support for our hardware. But that has to be done. And who's going to do that work? And then do all the testing associated with it. We were really fortunate that the Mister has support for the game.
Oh, wow.
And that, like, the audio doesn't work like fully. There's no sound chip support, but the game itself plays through. And we also got a support for it added to, I think, LibRetro, or the Pro System fork of LibRetro, LibRetro, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's RetroArch, ain't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Very cool.
Osmond, you're awesome. And thank you for, this is some sort, it's an underdog system. It's kind of like I'm a New York Jets fan, so it's kind of like the same flavor. It's like the guys across town, so it's kind of cool to have something that's our own, even though it's on Steam. That is like, wow, this is something that's really nice. And I know you went through a lot of personal and financial sacrifice to bring it to us, but it is appreciated. And
I actually enjoyed working with the hardware as much as I make fun of it. Like, I'm glad to have actually properly met the 7800 now.
Well, even on John's channel, I just watched his intro trailer at the 7800 Pro Gamer, and it says at the end of this intro video, the 7800 only kind of sucks. I mean, so there is a sense of humor.
Do you know how well it holds open a door? Seriously,
right? Yeah.
Hey, and I think it's a really beautiful system from back then.
Yeah,
there were so many that were like the 5200 looked like a freaking a Halliburton bomb or something somebody would bring in to blow up Oak Ridge, Tennessee or something. But anyway,
I always liked AVGN's skit where like he put the beer in the back where the controllers go.
But man, thank you so much. And
thanks for inviting me.
If you want to lose a bunch of money ever again, the 7800 community would
welcome you back.
Welcome you with open arms, baby.
Well, we'll
Absolutely.
see. I got to work for a couple more years, and then I'll burn all that money.
There you go. And everybody buy Rikki and Vikki on Steam. Buy it with Stone Age Gamer. Don't buy it on eBay.
Don't tell people that. It's a free society, but support Osmond. And we just got somebody from Chile. I don't know. They didn't know what Eastern Standard Time was. But anyway, we're done with the interview, so we're back to look at it. But Osmond, man, you're awesome. Thank you so much for Rikki.
Yeah, you guys are too.
Yeah. And take care, my friend.
Take care.
Have fun.
All right.
You too. See ya.
Well, man.
Wow.
That was pretty cool,
Very
right?
Cool. He's a cool guy. I really
I don't know about that, man.
No, he was cool.
No, I'm kidding. He's awesome. Now, I feel like we left a lot on the table, man. That's why I had a wrestling match last night. I wasn't able to go over the damn the notes. I thought you should have done better. I'm mad at you right now.
Oh, you're mad at me for not. I think we got a lot of good information out of him, really.
It because it was a mysterious game, right? Like it came out of nowhere. He even said that he didn't even promote it until it was too late. I wonder if that hurt him. Like, I wonder if that's something I should have asked him. Would he go back and do like a 4-month?
Yeah.
He's right here. Hold on a second. Let me ask you this shit.
Yeah, no worries.
I've never had a callback like this before. So we're talking about the financial stuff. Would you go back and promo this different instead of doing like the it's here? Would you maybe do like a 4-month like sneaky videos?
Well, and how could he have though with the mainstream websites not wanting to give you any?
So that was something that was discussed a lot before we announced it, like all through 2018. My issue with it is that the moment you announce it, now you have to start dealing with, is it done yet? When's it done?
Yep.
When's it done? Is it done yet? And unless you have someone on your team that is going to answer all those emails and have the ability to like be calm and, very, very clear when you're explaining to people, then you shouldn't do it. So it might have helped if we had a longer lead, but I think that would have straight up resulted in the game just not shipping at all. I think things were really, really tight near the end. Especially going into the winter. I legitimately had just boxes all over my house. We were waiting for the final print materials to come in like a couple days before we were supposed to start shipping everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really tight. What I wanted to do if we ended up getting enough to do another game was like before when it comes out, do like a fake Kickstarter where the game's already done. But you do the Kickstarter and make it look like the biggest scam ever. Like the financing made no sense. And then the game's going to be done in like 2 weeks. And so then you give updates, like, even though all the material's already done. So like that, we wanted to spin.
That would have been different.
Yeah. We wanted to spin stuff later on, but like for Rikki and Vikki, I don't think we would have been able to do it.
All right, man. Thank you for coming back and answering that.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And again, you got a lot, for some reason, people are now waking up in Latin American countries. We got a lot of people. Mr. Ingeniosus, thank you for making such a great game and showing everyone what the 7800 can do. I think that goes back to what we said earlier about the 7800 homebrew. The bar has been raised a little bit, and I think a lot of it. And then somebody else's greetings from Chile. So,
well, the thing is, we gave away the designs for all the hardware we use. So,
wow.
like, if I only got one request for it from a guy who's not really in the Atari Age community, and I saw some of the demos he was doing. It was pretty cool. But
wow.
I if anyone wants to take our stuff, it's there.
Cool.
Like, the only hitch is it's not supported by like 7800 basic, so you have to roll your own stuff or
so it's assembly only.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
Beautiful. All right, man.
Okay.
Have a good week, bud.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
See ya.
All right.
Do you feel better now, or are you still mad at me?
I'm a little sore. No, I think that was pretty good. I think I got it all out. It felt like, what are you doing? She's like, I've got all these the funk robots are bringing me food during an interview. This is highly, when you're on the mothership, brother, you never know. I got to reprogram these things. I need to get Osmond up there to reprogram these women robots. I got
there you go.
Around. No food during an interview. It's unprofessional. I got eggs here getting stale. But well, I think we did a good job, man. And anything you want to go over? I mean, somebody was talking about the 2600 plus. I have no idea about it. Osmond kind of answered that, I think, really well.
I think the 2600 plus is exactly what Osmond said. It's going to be good for a lot of the people, the casual people. Because like he said, they'll get it. They might maybe buy a couple more games off eBay or order one off Atari.com, and then they'll enjoy it, and then they'll put it in the closet and never touch it again.
It's just a flashback with removable carts is what it probably is. And it's actually a pretty good price, right? Like they're not asking $250 for it.
Yeah, it's $129.99, which is pretty good actually for what they've been asking for stuff.
But again, you can go to a flea market and get a 2600 for 30 or 40 bucks, you know?
Well, have you seen the prices on eBay for what these things have been going for now? I mean, they've been shooting up in price. So this is actually a good value for, I think, a lot of people.
You mean the old Atari stuff?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm always looking for deals and stuff.
Right. But there is already a compatibility list for the 2600 plus. They've been testing some things apparently, and it does run off emulation. But they've already identified some games that will not work with the 2600 plus. So Real Sports Boxing does not work with it.
Well, I'm out. That's my favorite game of all time.
Yep. So that takes you out. Super Cobra does not work with it. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre does not work with it. And that's only the games that they've tested. They have several here that passed. There's plenty more that passed that did not. They got some that, for whatever reason, they listed and said, no, we didn't test those.
What about the 7800? I mean, that would, to me,
everything on the 7800 passed. But
Rikki and Vikki and shit won't work.
They did not test any homebrews, and with Rikki and Vikki, I doubt that will work with all the chips and stuff.
Well, he just told you. I got that thing. He just told you that it won't.
Right.
But I just like the fact there's fresh blood in Atari.
Yep.
And you got, and we'll talk about this, and we'll take off for the day. But you just got a VCS a couple days ago.
Just got it Friday.
And
yep.
Mine is not bricked, but it's pissing me off, and I haven't touched it. In fact, if anybody from Atari watches this, fix your shit. Because I bought the Atari VCS because I wanted to play Atari games on an Atari system.
Yep.
And there was a sale last week when they released Quantum Recharged, which I'm number 2 in the world right now on Quantum Recharge. It's a girls' game, but it's still fun. Anyway, I bought it all on the Switch. I bought all these Recharge games on the Switch because I can't get my VCS to frickin' work. And how long did it take you to get the VCS to frickin' work?
It took me, I think, 2 hours to get it working out of the box, which was ridiculous. That really ticked me off, to be honest, buying it. And it just didn't work. I couldn't do anything. I went to Discord, and I actually ended up going to an Atari Age thread that answered my questions quicker than anything. But yeah, it was not a good experience out of the box. Now I'm having fun. I've been playing Atari 50th, which is a lot of fun. I'm late to that party, but yeah.
Hey, that's one of my top videos. Now, are you playing Tempest with the spinny controller, the classic controller, the spinny thing?
You can spin it to play it? I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, you freaking asshole. That's the whole reason you have a classic controller. Is that spinny thing acts as a paddle.
Oh, wow. No, I didn't try it with that. I tried Tempest with the regular controller, and then I did the classic controller with like Adventure and Haunted House and stuff. So, but I didn't try Tempest.
You gotta spin that shit, man.
Oh, I might have to do that right after this. Atari IO says they claim 7800 Meltdown, Barnyard Blaster, and Sentinel will work on the 2600 plus. Does that mean the game boots up, or does that mean it has light gun compatibility? That means it has light gun compatibility. I'm pretty sure all your old controllers work with it. I think is what I took from it.
So you don't know. You're like my wife. I ask her a question, she says something, and then she, at the end of it, disqualifies herself from the actual answer. So we don't know.
We don't know. We're all speculating, of course, because we don't have it in hand to actually.
Are you buying it? Are you going to buy it?
I think so. I think I have to.
You know why I'm probably going to buy it is because it comes with that weird multi-cart.
That multi-cart. That's a odd.
I mean, it's like it's got Dodgem in it. Who sat there and was like, "Hey, we need to resurrect Dodgem and Real Sports Volleyball in it."
And it has dip switches instead of a menu. You got to sit there and flip the switches to get what game you want to play.
Does it really?
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It's weird.
Atari is. That's why I like it though. It is like this mess. It is a mess, and it's fun to kind of cycle through the mess.
Yeah.
It sounded like our buddy there, Osman TailChao, did not enjoy. I don't know. You know, I also wanted to ask him because I understand what it's like to, because I make movies, and movies can take a long time to make, and so I understand. You know, he spent 4 years of his life on Rikki and Vikki.
Yeah, my God.
And that was his job. And I feel like, you know, because I think some people have kind of commented somewhere that, you know, he kind of seems like bitter, or he's not a 7800 pom-pom girl.
Right.
But you can't blame him. I still not 100% sure on why he picked the 7800. I guess
he said it was one of the requirements for Rikki and Vikki was to be able to do 320 whatever it is, pixels wide or tall, and that limited his choices to the 7800 or the Genesis. I believe was like the only two that could accommodate the graphics modes, and so he chose the 7800.
I wonder what I'm totally ignorant of what the Sega Genesis homebrew scene is like. Do you know anything? Is that
they have
bigger?
I know there's a few games that came out for. I think there was something like Coffee Crisis. There was a Xeno Crisis, maybe a lot of Crisis on.
A lot of. Somebody needs to call 911. That's it. So what you're saying is it's smaller than the 7800.
I don't know if it's smaller, but it's probably less. Yeah, less
passionate.
Passionate, I would say. Yeah, I haven't heard a lot of people, but I'm not looking for it either. So I guess I don't really know.
Well, what good are you? Anyway,
useless.
Well, we'll talk about the VCS next week or something. We'll talk about it. Use the damn controller as it's designed. And
yeah, I'm gonna do that.
You're supposed to be my friend. You're supposed to watch the video. The whole thing was a spinning controller that can be a paddle and a joystick. Well, you didn't pay attention,
months ago. Yeah, I'll rewatch it.
Your dog was barking in the background. You didn't hear it.
I know. I ruined the whole damn thing.
The whole interview. At that point, he disengaged. He just shook his head.
Yeah, he said, "Oh, there's a dog barking."
This is Bush League bullshit.
I sent the kids and wife away, and they came home early. So
where'd they go? To get ice cream or what?
They went to get ice cream. They brought me back a icy. So
I've got these robot women, these fembots bringing me the shit on the mothership here. Have yourself an icy.
Yeah,
don't let that melt there. You're amongst friends now. We don't have to take our shoes off. We don't have to pretend to be classy people. You're from Toledo. I'm from Baltimore. I live in Knoxville. It's like the 3 worst cities in the United States. I wouldn't send my wife and kid out into Toledo unless they had
alone.
Unless they had an Uzi. No,
I made sure they had their bulletproof jackets on.
Beautiful. You're a good dad.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, man. Well, it's been good. Send our boy there an email and tell him that we appreciate his interview. And I,
Absolutely.
We thought he was unapproachable, right? And
Yeah.
yet nobody's asked him for an interview.
Yeah,
which is really weird.
That's strange because again, it's one of the greatest 7800 games ever.
Oh,
and nobody's talking to him.
I want to say this too. I know we put over Rikki and Vikki a lot, and I don't want this to be interpreted that we're shitting on Bob or MK Smith or Breck or Muddy Funster or Vlad or anybody else.
Absolutely not.
These games you guys are making are unbelievable.
They're all great.
Yeah, and they're getting better too. I mean, everybody's stuff is elevating. Bob we just reviewed last week his Pac-Man game, which got a perfect score that just came out, and so I mean these things are, EXO from Muddy Funster just got a perfect score on our website. So everybody's
can't wait to get that.
Yeah, and Mike Sarna and everybody else. I'm leaving somebody out. Who am I leaving out? There's a bunch of them I'm leaving.
There's
out.
So many of them. Daryl.
Daryl, and who's the one? God damn it! I said. Revan Tully. We just see
Revan Tully. Yeah.
So anyway.
I love his stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you do. And I apologize for my behavior on that interview. But anyway, all right, brother. I think I'm going to go back to. I had a match, and we just finished our movie, Camp Smokey. Oh, and what'd you think of WJHC, real quick?
Yeah, it was very entertaining. I left the review on IMDb if anybody wants to read that. But I recommend it. It's a very entertaining movie. Don't throw stuff.
I know you're lying. That's why I'm throwing.
No. I really liked. I thought the blonde girl, the sister. What was her name?
Sister Christian.
Yeah. She was very funny. All over you there for about 5 minutes, and then the boss comes in and she says, "No, he's very forward." I don't. I got a kick out of that. The Hadouken priest and all that stuff was just hilarious. So
now you're not from the South.
No.
So does that? Let me ask you this. I'll interview you about the movie you just watched. Does any of that stuff make sense to you? Like, do you? That's I'm a Yankee, but I came down south, and that's the whole story is true until the return of Jesus.
You really work there? Because that's a real radio station, right?
That is a television station that we were very lucky to get. And the board itself, I swear to God, is the same exact board that I used to navigate in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
The radio board.
Yeah.
With all the knobs. That's the same setup, and it was extremely dated back in the 90s. So there's an operating television station in Tennessee that has that same board that's probably 50 years old. And so when I saw that and we had the opportunity to shoot there, I was like, what? But all that to say, when we were shooting, we had a couple of people who were Yankees in there, and they kept coming over to me going, what are these people doing? And I was like, have you not seen Southern Pentecostal religion stuff? And they were like, no. I said, this is how, now we're trumping up the humor a little bit,
right?
But this is pretty much how some of these folks act. So did you, or were you aware of that type of?
I was aware of kind of like evangelical television ministers and stuff like that. I was somewhat aware of it, but not to the extreme that you were showing it on there. I got a kick out of the Street Fighter. No, not Mortal Kombat, not Killer Instinct, Street Fighter 2.
And that really came. I mean, there was a guy who was feeling like he was throwing. Now he wasn't calling it Street Fighter fireballs,
right?
But he was pointing at people doing this, and people were falling down. And I was like on the phone with a friend going, this motherfucker is throwing fucking fireballs and people are acting like they're not falling down. I'm like, it's like, I don't know what this has to do with God. So all that stuff from the phone calls with the cats, and I don't think the cats will go to heaven and stuff if they don't know Jesus. I mean, all that stuff's real.
Have you tried telling them?
Yeah. Have you tried to? I don't think they speak English. Well, what language do you normally speak to them? English? Well, that seems like a waste of time. I mean, anyway, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's good.
we got a movie called Camp Smokey coming out. Will be out before Halloween. We have a movie called The Hike, which is a big hit for us. That it was our first movie, and I'm in a movie called Vinny's Fantastic Rock and Roll Adventure. I did for Asai TV, which is a Route 66 comedy. Which
is that out yet, or is that?
It's going to come out. It's September 1st. It's actually coming out real soon. So, and that is a funny movie, man. The guy that wrote that movie is a big 80s comedy and 90s comedy guru. If you remember how comedies used to come out, like every year there's 2 or 3 really good comedies. It feels like, hard luck road comedy, and it's just thing after thing after thing happens. This poor schmuck, and the poor schmuck is me. And anyway, we got one more comment here. They played Montezuma's Revenge. That game has many versions on different computers and consoles. Sorry for my bad English.
That would have been a good game for the 7800 too. Montezuma's Revenge. I only played the 2600 version, so I'm not.
I never played it. Is it pretty good?
It's it's not bad.
Multiple screens, you kind of do different things as you go through. Yeah, I remember seeing it. Yeah, I used to read a lot of the video games critic reviews until they blocked me. But anyway, well, dude, great job. You landed this interview. Your YouTube page is doing good. It's the 7800 Pro Gamer, so look that up. And you're putting out I should save this for a private conversation, but you kept putting down what you're doing, and of course, it can get better. Everybody's stuff can get better over time.
Right.
Even the guy that just made the best 7800 game of all time said, I can make the game much better now. So that's just something that is true. But I think when you have an interesting, something that's like you've got something that says the 5 secrets of the 7800 or something like that. I think anything like that, you send me, if you like, this is a pretty good, I'll put it on this 7800 Forever, the Atari 7800 Forever website as content, and we'll just do this dual YouTube thing going back and forth. And your videos are getting shit tons more than mine, so that should tell you something right there. So
yeah, they're doing all right. They really picked up in the last day. I don't know why, but man,
you got that VPN thing, man.
Oh, that's what did it.
You're cheating.
Right.
But anyway, all right, brother. Well, God bless you, and I'm glad your family returned safe. And thanks for the interview. That was a good one.
Oh yeah, good time as always. I appreciate it.
All right, brother. Be good. Make sure you hit inbot broadcast, because the interview we did with Revan Tully, it was your face for like 3 minutes at the end of it.
I'll leave right now.
Oh, hey, Pack Billy. Yeah, we just go back and watch the beginning of this. We actually were talking about the 2600 plus a little bit. And also our guest, Osman, who's known as TailChao, who invented the who programmed Rikki and Vikki. He actually had some insight about the 2600 plus. So that's around near the last third of the interview. So, and I'm sorry you weren't in the chat. There was some good stuff. We could have used you, bro. And I apologize that we don't advertise our shit better than we do. All right, brother.
All right.
See you, Silver.
See ya.